This terrarium right here was one of my favorite Christmas presents this year. I'm pretty sure that my mom gave it to me. One of the things that I liked most about that terrarium back there, that one right back there, is that I sort of just picked it up one day, threw it together. I'm pretty sure I made a video about it on this channel, but I picked it up, I threw it together. It sort of just kind of came together naturally. And I'm going to attempt, at least, to recreate the same thing with this terrarium here. I realized that by attempting to recreate the same sort of like just natural, threw it all together and it became one of my favorite terrariums feeling is, you know, in and of itself, attempting to recreate it. I want to have a matching bigger brother version of that tiny little terrarium over there, and we're going to throw this thing together. It's going to be fun. We're going to try and do it as naturally as possible. It's about time that we dig into here, pull some of these plants out. I've been trying to debate which ones we're going to use, and I think we're going to concentrate on that tub, but who knows? We'll kind of, well, I do sort of want to use these little, I don't even know what it's called, but these tiny little delicate plants over here. I definitely want to use those in this terrarium as well. In this terrarium right here, maybe we'll use some plants in one of these tubs down here. I think it is finally time to take our big mixing bowl, head out to the garage, and we're going to fill this thing with all the ingredients that we're going to use to create the foundation of that terrarium right there. This is another project, by the way, while I walk by it. This is another project that's in much need of a renovation. I have to admit that I sort of let my my morning gecko terrarium go. The geckos are still in there. I do take care of them. I actually came in here and I was cleaning things out a little bit the other day in preparation for, I don't know, something. I was trying to inspire myself into a new direction that we could possibly take this thing. But anyways, that's just something I thought about as I was walking by. Let's get in. Now the first thing that we need to do is, I think right over there, is just a mixture of peat moss, vermiculite, and sphagnum moss, a little bit of dry sphagnum moss. So this is sort of like the main foundation. I'm gonna grab, we don't need too much, maybe one more handful or one more kind of half handful of that. Remember, we're working with sort of a small cylinder here. I just got a bunch of this stuff and I've been excited to use it. I only used it on one. Oh man, I'm trying to balance this. Over, and it's actually pretty heavy. And I used some of this akadama soil. It's kind of a nice way of providing just a little bit of aeration in the soil. Is that a good way to put it, maybe? I don't know. It kind of keeps things nice and drainable. I don't know. Keep it simple, nutrient packed. This is an organic fertilizer. And I saw this fertilizer on a YouTube channel that I like called Benji Plant. He recommended it at one point, and I bought a big bag of it, and I've been using it sort of ever since. We don't want too much of this stuff, but we do want to add a little bit of nutrients. We're going to need something for our base layer, and I'm not sure. Maybe I'll use, you know what we're going to use? We're going to use, whoa. We're going to use whatever's right back there. Oops. Because I did all this work to get it. In fact, we'll use whatever's in this bag right here. Oh, while I'm here, I'll also point this out. This is my RO-DI unit. This is what I use to make my RO-DI water. So I basically take this outside and hook it up to my hose. I usually do it once a week. It takes a couple hours to fill a 5-gallon jug. But I got this from a place called Bulk Reef Supply. Again, it's a reverse osmosis deionization system. It makes super pure water. So anyways, this right here, I'll give you a little peek, is just going to be like gravel. We're going to use that on the very bottom of the terrarium, and this is going to be what makes it so that you know, the water that kind of goes through the soil here has a place to live and has a place to not kind of muck everything up in the terrarium. So we've got a nice base layer. of our just regular aquarium gravel in there. We're gonna need something to prevent this mix from mixing too much with our base layer right there. So for that, we're gonna use just a handful of, this is just regular sphagnum moss. Let's grab a pinch of this. I don't wanna mix this in because I'm gonna create a layer with it, so I'll just sort of leave that on the side. I'm gonna grab one of these cool, what is this? This is cork bark pieces too. I'm not sure if we're gonna use this. There's one other thing that we're gonna do before, but hold on, let's drag all of this back inside. I always like to hold the bowl up when I'm walking. Make sure it works good. Now one more thing that we have to do before we get going is I wanna grab one of these rocks. We're not gonna need too much of it. Kind of give this a couple whacks. Okay. Anyways, that's how you make some nice random pieces of dragonstone. Or again, this will apply to any type of stone. Dragonstone's just kind of nice because it's particularly porous and it's really easy to break into nice random chunks like this. Now it's time to get to real business. We've got all of our ingredients here. We've got everything that we're gonna need to assemble this thing. Okay, so to get things kick-started, we're gonna take a little handful of our gravel here, and we just wanna get a nice base layer on the bottom. Okay, so I'd say we don't want too much, you know, it's gonna be visible, and we just wanna create a layer. We don't have to really moisten this or anything like that. The whole point of this sphagnum moss, it's to prevent our actual terrarium soil that the plants are going to be in. It's just to prevent it from going into these rocks down here. We've got layer 1, we've got layer 2. I guess I should do a POV for the first handful of our actual terrarium dirt. Again, this is just a mixture of peat moss, sphagnum moss, and I've got a little bit of that fertilizer, that Keep It Simple organic fertilizer that we put in there. And then I've also got some vermiculite in here, as well as some akadama soil. You know, you can decide whatever you want. I used to be so obsessed with like, oh, I need, you know, what's the recipe? How many of this ingredient? How many of that ingredient? And then I just started, you know, taking handfuls and throwing things in and sort of, you know, going by what felt good. And it makes building the terrarium a lot more enjoyable. And, you know, dare I say, it makes the plant's life a lot more enjoyable. I'll give you a little pro tip. I'm going to turn my mister on here and just give this a little bit of a moisten, just to kind of soak it up. It's going to make it a little bit easier to form and kind of just work with in general. I don't want this to be like super saturated. We're going to give the whole terrarium a good old soak down in the end. But what I do want, let's try to keep as much off of the glass as we can. Sometimes if you're working with like a really small bottle, you don't really have the luxury of getting to clean the glass off too much, so you got to be even more careful. And that's just one of those other constraints that if you choose to add it to your project, to your terrarium project, that's what making terrariums is all about. I want to slope the, can you see my finger in the camera? I don't know how far away it is. I want to slope the soil up a little bit towards the back. We're going to have sort of like a hill effect going on in here. In fact, you know what? This would probably be the time to throw one of our bigger rocks in here. Now we are going to have some sort of a tree. I've been eyeballing either this guy right here or this guy right here, even though he's lost some of his leaves. I like this one. I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards this one just because I like the rounded leaves. And they're going to match this plant a little bit better. But, wow, I'm thinking about that one too. We'll get to that. We'll get to that part in just a second. Let's not jump ahead. Let's grab our ugliest rock, which is probably, I like that one a lot. It's going to add some nice texture. This one's probably the ugliest. It's got like the most kind of square. The reason I say grab the ugliest one is because this one's going to be the most covered up. I'm going to sort of just bury this a little bit right in the front here to give us a little bit of just to kind of give us a little bit of a grace, or a footer of a grace. Give us a little bit of a footer down here to start working around. At this point, let's continue adding a little bit more of our dirt. Like I said, I want to create sort of a hill. I'm going to take some of our cork bark. I'm just going to sort of crack it randomly if I can. Maybe I'll use it on my, maybe I'll do it on my knee. There we go. Again, I'm just sort of looking for some random pieces. This one's kind of cool. I want to put just one piece of our cork bark, probably our top piece, something that has the most round kind of look to it. I think I like this one because I'll be able to put a little bit of, you know, moss kind of hanging out the top there. I want to put a little bit of that right there. I think we're finally ready to dig into our bins up there. And while I was talking about it earlier, I'd already secretly made the decision. We're gonna take a couple other little random plants into here, but our primary plant is gonna be that one that's right back in there. I've been waiting for a place to put this guy, and I think this is gonna be the perfect kind of showcase terrarium for it. The reason I say that, is because this plant in particular, it just has that it has that extra tiny little forest world kind of plant with a bit of like a, you know, flamboyant, curvy vibe to its leaves. Anyways, I am also going to pull some of this stuff right here into it. I can't remember any of the names of these plants right now. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm just going to pull this guy out because we want to get him in place. Go through, we'll clean these roots up a little bit just to kind of pull some of this old junk off of here. Got another little extra fern that wants to come along, or at least I think that's a fern. This is one of the wild little surprise plants that kind of pops up in some of my terrariums. I think while we're at it, I'm actually going to take my scissors and just trim some of these roots up too. It's perfectly fine to give your plants an upside down haircut. I can see we're going to have to go down quite a ways. So, this is something I should have mentioned earlier, is that you're going to displace a lot of the soil that you put in here originally. So don't get too obsessed with throwing too much in and, you know, filling in all the cracks and the crevices, because a lot of this is going to get stirred up. Give it a shove in. I want to go down even a little bit further. It's not because we'll trim the top of the plant so that it's not sticking out of the terrarium. It's not because of that. I just want more. I want it to be down even further. I want those roots to almost be touching that base layer. So it really has that sort of, you know, everything has kind of fallen around and started growing around this centerpiece tree right here. I'm being a little brutal with the tree, to be honest with you. I'm getting it kind of twisted in there. I'm crunching it in. I'm really cementing it into place because this is the one time that we're going to get to sort of, you know, beat it up. Let me do a little trimming on the leaves, and then I'll bring it up close, a little closer for you, and kind of light it up nice so you can see. It'll make a nice progression shot on the better camera over here. You want to get in between the nodes, and the nodes are, it's the little bumps that you kind of see, the little bumps where the leaves are going to come out of in the branches there. So you just want to cut in between that. Really, this part doesn't matter too much. Don't worry about it too much. And similar to how we did the roots, you can feel free to go a little crazier than you might think, because plants are pretty resilient. They like getting beat up. In nature, they get beat up all the time by storms and things like that. And that's the way that I sort of think about it, is it kind of, it reinvigorates them a little bit. It lets them realize that, hey, you know, I've lost half my leaves. All my branches are being trimmed. I've really got to, you know, take everything I've got now and push it into, you know, into recreating, into building something even better than I had before. And that's the opportunity that I kind of feel like we give these plants when they're in these terrariums. Got a little bit of background going on, got a little bit of foreground going on, got a little bit of life going on right in the middle. Still got some adjusting to do, so let's get back onto the table. All right, I want to be a little bit delicate with this guy, but we'll squish it in just a little bit. Some terrarium people will be showing off their fancy tools, and I've got the tweezers and stuff. We may need them, but if I can get away with it, I always prefer to use my I always prefer to use my grubby little fingers to do the work. Now this one, this miniature oak leaf fig, is it maybe? I think what we're gonna do, I keep moving a tray down under me for when I do the clip in here in front of the camera so that I don't make too much of a mess. But part of this whole terrarium building thing is also not worrying about the mess. This one I'm just gonna sort of, you know, clip up quite a bit. I wanna have some different little clumps to work with here. And really, the idea between, you know, these sort of vining kind of ground cover foliage plants is they're going to be constantly moving around. So I just want to think of these as sort of the little seeds of where they're going to start. And then, yeah, the best part of the terrarium is these little guys, really, in my opinion. One of the best parts. Right into the back up here. Not too far down. Just a little bit forceful. I just also noticed how the roundedness kind of goes right along with the other leaves too, and I love that. I love when these magical little things happen and everything sort of just starts lining up. How did this tree get? Not so far over though. All right, let's wiggle that back. Let's get another little patch kind of climbing down the side of the thing here, you see? I'm just gonna shove it into the in the crack right behind this. Okay. And do the squish. The squish is super important. So it makes everything look like it's kind of been growing there for a while, you know? That's why you always got to pick the pieces. Don't look at the thing as a whole. Look at like a shape of a part of it that you're going to use. I think it's about time that I give you another update up here. There we go. All right, I think I want to build this background up yet a little bit more. Let me, real quick, there's no sense in having this smudge ruining all of our awesome shots while we build this thing. Plus, one of the things that I've really started to appreciate about making terrariums is sort of the taking your time and trying your best not to kind of mess up the sides. Being okay with when you do mess up the sides, but trying your best, trying your best at first anyways not to do it. And then at the very end, we'll give this thing a spritz with water and it'll be all covered in condensation anyways. So it's all kind of, you know, it's a game with yourself, just like life. Now we're gonna find another piece of our cork bark to put right up to kind of extend up a little bit higher here. I think this one will work nice. Which side do we like the most? Do we like it going like that? And what I'm doing here is I'm creating sort of a layered effect. See that, how I'm shoving it just a little bit behind there? Let's get a top view. We haven't done a top view in a while. There we go. I think I want this rounded to be sticking up. Just like that. Now we've got our little oak leaf plants that will sort of wind their way around in there, kind of solidifying all this, and it'll all sort of marry together. I'm gonna take another little scoopful of our soil here, and I just want to sort of throw a dash on the top of the structure that we just built to kind of give it that, you know, not perfectly assembled kind of look. You know, you want it to look like this all sort of fell into place, but you also don't want to make too much of a mess. So let's just sprinkle a little bit in there. I'm trying to keep the sphagnum moss out. How's this shot back here of my butt? This is sort of a bit of a foreshadowing towards where we're going to spend a lot of our time at the end of this video, is going through all the details, smushing everything into the cracks and the crevices. And I wanted to put some of these other plants in one of those tubs over there somewhere. I wanted to get them kind of filling in the foreground there. So let's pick out our remaining plants. Okay. I know I did that kind of weirdly, but anyways, this is the plant that I'm after right here, is these little, whatever these dainty little fellas are. I love them. I love them because they're so delicate and dainty. And if you haven't figured out by the name of this channel, Tiny World Laboratory, which I keep changing because, I don't know, I guess I'm having an identity crisis or something. I love tiny things. I love tiny little worlds. I love tiny little ecosystems, just like the terrarium that we're creating on this video. All right, let me get a shot of kind of popping this in. We'll just drop it gently. And again, take our fingers, give a little bit of squish. That's the last thing I'm going to say in this segment until I stop. Well, I will say one more thing because I need a little pinch. I need a little pinch of our dirt. Just a little sprinkle on top of our new plants. Don't forget, this is all going to start getting overgrown and everything. The plants are going to do their thing to take over. So our tree's starting to look a little bit shrunken, but that's kind of the point, right? We want it to fill in this space. We want it to kind of take over and really become the centerpiece. And then obviously we want to watch it all happen. We want to watch it grow. We want to watch it take over that space, because that's why we build terrariums, right? We did put that one piece in the very beginning, kind of in the foreground there, but now it's time to add some pieces all over the place. It's time to add some pieces to the background. It's time to add some pieces to the, what do you call the middle ground? The middle ground? I'm going to throw these puzzle pieces into place. Maybe we'll even give the terrarium a little shake just to kind of reorient everything. And then let's work with what we've got. Let's kind of cement everything into place. We've really covered that the little oak leaf, but you can see a little piece of it still sticking out. All that little rubble up there is going to be a really kind of fun detail that you're going to get to witness when you take a different perspective. You know, most people are going to be sitting down here looking from this angle. And I always like to have little places, little treats when you kind of take a new perspective and look at things from, you know, a little bit of a different view, maybe a little bit of a different view than was ever even intended. So let's get back over to the tubs. Let's pick one more random plant. This is Japanese sweetgrass. It smells good. It's like a miniature grass, and it just has, it's going to have, because everything else in this terrarium has like a rounded sort of effect to its leaf, I think it's going to be fun to break the rules just a little bit and kind of throw something a little spiky in there. Just something to kind of top everything off. So let's pick our favorite clump. We don't want too much. I'm kind of liking this clump right back here in the corner. Although, yeah, let's go with this one right back here in the corner. It has like a sweet smell to it. You know what it really smells like? It smells like a pet store. It smells like the hamster section of a pet store or something like that. We've got some clumps of our Japanese sweetgrass to work with. Everything's smelling wonderful. We do have one more step after this. We're going to add a little bit of moss. Is there any moss yet? We'll use some of that moss right in there to kind of tie into the spikiness of the grass, probably. Are we pointing at that? Yeah, you got that. I usually like to do groups of 3. Again, because of the whole even number thing. This whole little thing that we're creating, this little chimney in the back, it's kind of like an Easter egg, isn't it? It's kind of like an Easter egg that we're creating. Especially this little back part, because it's got all these buried little plants in it that are going to emerge from it eventually. It's funny because, you know, you get so obsessed with these rules and stuff, but at the end of the day, all of this is going to grow in, and you're going to have no idea that you ever even like placed 3 up there or however many. But that's the fun part about all this, and that's why we do this. We're going to put some moss right in there. I've been eyeing this corner thinking it needs something, so we're going to put some moss in there in a second. I'm going to put our last little piece of grass right here. In fact, I think I'm going to squish this rock back and put a little bit of texture in the foreground. That's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to do this with both hands. I think I can pick you back up over here and give this a little squish right down here into the foreground. Okay, now we're not completely done yet. We've got, actually we don't even have all the plants in. We've still got to get a little bit of moss in here. Got just enough moss in there. And I want to give you a before and after view of this thing, because now is the final phase. It's the detailing phase. It's the phase that we're going to get in here I'm gonna grab my, my tweezers because they have a nice long handle, and we're gonna organize. First I'm gonna turn my phone off, and we're gonna do the detail work where I get into all the cracks and crevices and just spend a little bit of time kind of, you know, squishing everything into place, pulling out all the little imperfections that we haven't quite noticed yet. But that's gonna be sort of a monumental part of this journey. Ooh, that's a good way. I should have been doing that the whole time. Jeez. So there's before our detail work. Man, why didn't I think about lighting it like that from the get-go? This part of the process definitely takes a little bit of time, but it's totally worth it because this is what brings everything to life. It's what gives it that organization, that organized chaos. I was having them in here. I don't know why they're in there. Did I mention that this is the most important part of the entire process? You know, besides the actual selection of the ingredients, the assembly of it all, the acquiring of the actual terrarium, of course, the acquiring of the plants, the acquiring of the knowledge that it takes, the skill that we've learned to actually kind of have that delicate balance that we're always looking for. You know, besides all of that stuff, this is by far the most important part of the process, is this detailing phase. Let's flip our tweezers over to the flat end. I love that these tweezers have this flat end because I can use it to do some of this, especially this foreground stuff. Some people like to, you know, leave kind of the debris in their terrariums, and I do kind of like to naturally let it accumulate sometimes, but I do also like to get in there and clean up the terrariums once in a while. And then you realize that you're rambling and you should basically just get back to the detail work. Whoops. I put a whole piece of sweetgrass out there, but that's okay. We'll just put that little guy. He obviously wanted to go back home. Battery died, no big deal. Let's get back to our detail work, starting this camera again. Meditate when you're doing this part. Just agree that it's going to take a while and sit there and just do it. You know, who cares? Who cares? There's no way to actually do this part, you know, that's the best part. Is you're just kind of wiggling. Just kind of wiggling things around. And what it's helped me realize anyways is that, you know, that's kind of life in general, is we're just wiggling everything around. We're always just kind of like wiggling around. Really, I'm using this moss in the front just to throw a little bit of a strange texture up against the glass here, and to sort of break this this little rock up. Sort of have it, I want to have this rock just kind of peeking in the foreground here. I do want to put another little piece of something, I think, right back in there though. Maybe not this piece because it's a little bit big. Okay. Maybe just something like that. And one more little piece. I've got to cut back to the far away shot once in a while to you know, just keep things interesting and, you know, basically make it so that I don't laser focus too much and lose myself in the terrarium that I'm creating. But losing yourself in the terrarium that you're creating is also sort of the reason that we create them. So let's move the light. Let's get back in here. I'm going to squish around just a little bit more. Try and get these plants nice and kind of firmly in place. And honestly, one little secret that I'll kind of fill you in on is that every time I make a terrarium on a video like this, I mean, there's always another phase where I come back after the camera's been off for a little while, and I've been looking at it for a day or two, and I'll come back in here, I'll open the lid, I'll get my tweezers back out, and once I think it's that fresh perspective that you get when you've kind of taken a break from something, I'll come back in and I'll do even more detail work. I'll spend, you know, twice as long doing detail work that second time, just because it helps you see all of the things that maybe you weren't taking the opportunity to see before because you were all involved in the creation process of, you know, building it and all of that. I'll show you some of our detail work. Like I said, it's probably not going to be too dramatic at this point, but in a few days I'll come back and I'll do even more detail work, and I can really, you know, you can open the lid anytime. Before we actually finalize this thing though, we're going to give it what every terrarium loves the most, and that is a good old soak and a good old rain shower from our Misty bottle here. We're going to soak this thing up. Gonna kind of play that little random hand of God that I was talking about earlier, where all the little droplets will, I don't know what I'm trying to say. All the little droplets will do something. Nonetheless, we're giving this thing a nice soak down, the best soak down that it'll probably ever get, because I really want everything to just fill up. Fill up, is that the right word? Because I want everything to just sort of fall into place, I think is what I'm trying to say. And a nice good soaking. You know, you can also think of it as a hello to your new home, for everything that gets to live in this little bubble that we just created. Let me just show you what it's going to look like. There's no sense in holding back too far. This lid also has this cool sort of adjustable thing, so you can adjust how much humidity will be in that thing. Of course, if you have these, you know, closed all the way, this thing's going to stay quite humid. I usually like to leave it open just like a little pinch, so I don't have to spray too often, maybe once every few weeks. And I feel good. I feel like we created a terrarium. I feel like we created a miniature world, and dare I say, I feel a little bit more like God than I used to. And that's the best part of, that's the best part of all of this stuff. Now, while we pop the light on, let me show you the one thing that I hate about these lights. I hate any time the light has these built-in timers. I sort of get it, because, you know, people, they want to have things automated, and they just want to, you know, they want to buy this and they want to put it on their counter, and they don't really want to, you know, they don't really want to think about it too much. They want to kind of set it and forget it. And having a built-in timer is really good for that. But the thing that I don't like about the built-in timers is that it doesn't work with things like, you know, like Google Home or any of those like automation things, Alexa or any of that kind of crap. These timers that are built into these things, if the power gets cycled from the plug, it won't automatically turn back on. So you can't use, you know, like Google Home or any of that sort of stuff. You can't use that to control these lights. So eventually what I'll end up doing is I'll end up just kind of clipping that out of there and putting my own little switch on it, just like I did. Let's see, just like I did on the other terrarium here. I cut the timer off and put just a regular switch in there. I'll give you a view from the back and the front as it comes on. Let's go around the front. It actually looks kind of cool with the droplets in there, doesn't it? Maybe that won't be the final shot per se, just because it's never the final shot. I never quite know when these things are done, but I do just want to give you a little bit more up close, if we can see it through some of these drops. In a few days, this condensation will go away quite a bit. But one of the things that I've found is, if we take a look at this terrarium, for example, when it has enough moisture in it, it generally is going to have some of these little condensation drops on it. So it's just kind of one of those things that kind of lets you know that it's living and thriving and doing its thing. You know, water is evaporating, and you know, it's being the little bubble that we created it to be, the little universe that we pulled out of our imaginations and turned into a physical something that we can watch and enjoy. What's a C word? The cool chimney, the chipper chimney, the chipper chimney terrarium, the chipped chimney terrarium. I think we just came up with it. I felt the light bulb flash when I said it. The chipped chimney terrarium. And I'm saying this just so that I remember it when I'm editing these videos, because I've been doing a new thing where I'm kind of recording for a while and then just doing editing all in one chunk and kind of putting things out in a while. It's allowing me to be a lot more natural, and it's allowing me to kind of feel when I'm ready to pick up the camera and, you know, create a terrarium or something like that. So it's been another one of those little pieces of my life that I've been playing with to try and optimize and to try and pull the best me out of me that I can for you. And I think that this chipped chimney terrarium that we created on this video is a perfect example. And there we have it. Our finished chipped chimney terrarium is what we're calling it. A little bit soggy at the moment, but that's fine. It's the bigger brother of our tiny little, I don't remember what I called this terrarium, but it's got a buddy now, and it's our chipped chimney terrarium. And just in case you're curious, The rest of this stuff, our debris, we can just pick this up, we can throw it back into one of our bins and save it for the next project where we won't have to do as much, you know, manly crunching and things like that. I picked this terrarium to throw this stuff back into because I mentioned this on a previous video, but I wanted to show you again because now both of these little tuber things that I've got here, I still don't know the name of them, are sprouting. And this is super cool because these have been waiting in here for, I don't know, a long time. Also, if you wipe the sides off with a piece of paper towel, you can do your final shot with a nice, clean, what did I call it? The chipped chimney terrarium. You should always take time to show your work off properly.